Alright, I want to make this video, if ever they would ask me to speak at the Young Israel Rabbinical Training Program, which I doubt they would, but I would really like to make a presentation like this, or maybe for some other rabbinical training program. Maybe I would go to, I would present this maybe to Rabbi Spivak's yeshiva in Monsey, or maybe YU or YCT, or one of these groups would have me speak. I don't know if they would, but I would be happy to offer something like this. Practical advice for Rabbanim, and interaction with the community. Little hints here and there, a little bit of advice and mindset. One thing I could say is that when you're a rabbi of a shul, you have a position in the community. When you're a rabbi of the only show in town, to a certain extent, whether it's the only Orthodox synagogue or the only synagogue, your responsibility is even greater. You essentially are the chief rabbi of your community, even if you're in Vermont. This is something that we should recognize. I mean, I'll tell you a story of how Gedolei Yisrael understood this. Both stories took place in Ulster County. I live in Sullivan County. But two of the Gedolei Hador, and this is a lesson for a lot of other things, but two of the Gedolei Hador approached small town Rabbanim, rural communities in Ulster County, New York, before they started their own minyanim in summer camps. In Kerhankson, when the summer they opened the camp in Kerhankson, Summer Rav Zechusi Aganaleinu sent his Gaba, Rabbi Yasser Ashkenazi, Zechron Levracha, to go ask the Rav of a little shul, the town shul in Kerhankson, permission before they started their own minyan in the camp. And he said, the Rav there said, "Are you making fun of me?" What do you mean? You're asking me permission? He said, well, the Rebbe says you're the chief rabbi of this community, and we cannot have a minyan in your town without your permission, and you have the total right to say no. We have to daven here, and we'll do it. And he said, no, it's okay. You can have your own minyan, but I appreciate it. And not only that, but he also recognized, the damage that could happen. There could be people in the community who maybe want to daven somewhere else, and they won't daven in the town shul, and things like that. And it could be detrimental to the minyan. A similar story I heard. Rabbi Eisner, Zechron Levracha, who was maybe a bit more of a bar hachi than I don't know who the Rav was in Kerhankson at the time. But Rav Eisner was more of a bar hachi, we could say. And Rav Moshe Feinstein is a Chossi Yevim Aleinu, recognized Gadol Ador in the Litvish world, in America, and modern Orthodox world, and well respected in the Hasidic world, even if they didn't always agree with his Piskei Halachos. He also, I don't know, he himself or he sent someone, by Rav Moshe, it might have been he himself, or maybe he called Rav Eisner for the bracha over. It's also a possibility. But also he asked Rishus, he asked permission from Rav Eisner before, he started a minyan in his own camp. His yeshiva has a camp in Ellenville, and it was one of the first, and he asked permission as well, which there are many, many lessons that can be learned from both of these stories. They're basically the same story, different Gedolei Yisrael. The reason to tell both is to show that it's not just a Hasidic thing or a Litvish thing. So you have to tell both stories, essentially. I guess it's an Ulster County thing, I don't know. I mean, try to teach the same idea in Sullivan County. But anyway, the aspect that I'm trying to bring out here is that if you're a Rav in a small town like that, both of those communities have only one real shul, not counting bungalow colonies. I mean, one town shul. Although at one time Ellenville had two. There was a schism in Ellenville at one time in history. Fortunately, right now, a certain cult group came in and really ravaged Ellenville, and they originally had the shul that was the schism shul, and I don't know why they needed both. I don't know what purpose it served them. It's really quite nefarious, but we'll leave that aside for now. That's the kind of thing they do, and Shul Rabbanim should be aware of that too. The threat that this group poses. Rabbi Maven Young and Rabbi Frank Silkazunstein, he tried to fix things up there, whatever. And protested to the RCA over this issue. It was well publicized, and he's right. He's 100% right. But in any event, part of the lesson is that in the eyes of the Gedolei Yisrael, a regular modern Orthodox rabbi, from YU, who got a job, or he could be from Turbadas or Chaim Berlin or wherever else, or from Chaim, maybe be a little bit more yeshivish, but there's not really much of a nafkamina. Didn't matter you had a beard, didn't matter what kind of hat you wore. And the Gedolei Yisrael recognized that if you're a rabbi of a shul of a town, you're the chief rabbi of that town, and you have authority over that town in halachic matters and in rabbinical and synagogue community matters, and that has to be respected and honored. And when you have a position as a shul rabbi, whether the only shul or just any shul, you have to embrace that and recognize that. recognize that you have something you have to live up to, and that you have a responsibility being the chief rabbi of a community. You represent something. And it doesn't matter how you dress, it doesn't matter if you have a beard, it doesn't matter if you wear a hat, or what kind of hat you wear. When you're a senior rabbi of any synagogue, you have a position that you have to treat with as much respect as the office deserves. Even if you yourself are not deserving of the respect, you have to give the respect to the office that you serve. And by doing so, part of that is trying to live up to it. And in discussing that and in mentioning that, what I want to say, it's like this, is that you have this position. I brought my book, what's that called? Tablet. What I'm saying is, you have a position, you have responsibilities, but you also have, you have responsibilities to your synagogue, you have responsibilities to your community. One thing you should recognize is that other clergy are, in a sense, your colleagues, and other community leaders are your colleagues, including political leaders, local politicians are your colleagues that you have to work with. You have a responsibility to work with them. Just like, and I'm not a fan of the chief rabbinate of Israel, but they recognize their position, and when they have a position like this, they recognize they have to go meet with the Pope and the Dalai Lama, because even if they're not Gedolei Yisrael, Chief Rabbi of Israel is not Rav Elyashiv or Zichron Livracha or L'Batel L'Chaim Tov L'Chaim Kanievsky. But they have a position that they have to, that in a sense the Pope is their colleague and the Dalai Lama is their colleague, and they have to recognize that. And so too, if you're a town rabbi, the local priest, the local minister, the local imam, the local whatever, Buddhist or Hindu leaders, these are your colleagues. So too, the Reform and Conservative rabbis are your colleagues. You have to have a certain amount of fellowship with them. In some sense. Whether it means sometimes they're interfaith vigils and things that you have to attend as a rabbi of a community. Especially if you're a full-time rabbi, meaning if you have another job, you might not have time to do these things. And that's one of the reasons why it's important for communities to hire full-time rabbis. So they can attend all of these events and be present in the community. And that's why synagogues have to pay their rabbis a living wage. And when they don't, they're losing out, because the rabbi has to have another job to support himself, and he can't give all he has to the community. He or she, really, if we're talking about other movements, or even some form of open orthodoxy or whatever. So you have a position, and you need to live up to your responsibilities and serve it and so forth. Now, sometimes you might have a position in the community, chaplaincy, things like that, which might give you some extra money, and you're kind of, doing double duty by serving these chaplaincy programs, whether they be in prisons, hospitals, nursing homes, mental facilities, rehab centers. Sometimes these things are volunteer, and sometimes they're paid. I would suggest it's a nice thing if a rabbi can do it, especially if you're in a small town, to work for the Board of Elections. To sit there, and this way you get to meet people from your community, both Jews and non-Jews. And to be there on election day, it's a nice thing. It's a one-day thing that you get paid for, and also, I think most shuls would probably be pretty happy if their rabbi did something like that. So it's something I've done many years, and I think it's a nice thing if you can do it. One bit of advice I could give about is selling chametz. This seems like a simple thing. A lot of rabbanim I know, they just sell the chametz to whoever, the janitor. When I was Rav in Richmond, I always sold the chametz to a politician, or one time to a pastor, and then took pictures and sent them to Hamodia and Yated and it's and the Yid and the Blat and all of them, and it's I think it's a good idea. I think there was one Rav, he sold his chametz to Warren Buffett. Brilliant idea. If you can get like a really famous person or a big shot, those type of things, you got to plan ahead. I really wanted to sell my chametz to Doug Wilder, the mayor of Richmond, who was also at one point the governor. He was the first African American governor in American history. That would have been very nice. I wasn't able to do it, but I sold it to assemblymen in the city council, who was Bruce Tyler, and then another year, instead of selling to Bruce Tyler, I sold to a friend of mine who's a Baptist minister, not really a pastor, but someone who works a lot actually with the Jewish community. He's a docent at the Holocaust Museum, and a friend of mine. I got to call him back. He called me a few times, and I didn't get a chance to call him back. Alright, I'm at work now. It's time for me to go. We'll talk later. I have a few other advice like this. Certainly every rabbi should find out what it takes to sign a marriage license in their community. And I would strongly suggest that no matter where you live, every rabbi should who's a rabbi of a shul should register in New York City to be a wedding officiant. You could do it online. You don't have to do it in person. All right, my tablet is there. It really establishes you as quote unquote an official rabbi, and it's really an important thing to do. If you live in Virginia, you have to do that. A few other states have that as well. Find out what the laws are. Even if you're not going to do what I do, which is officiate at weddings for non-Jewish couples, or you might do it once in a while for a friend or something. And even if you're not going to be Masar Kedushin necessarily, which really the Rav of a shul should be, still, you should know to sign a marriage license. You should be legally, make sure you did everything you legally have to do to sign a marriage license. I know some Rabbanim, they don't like to sign marriage license, even they are Masar Kedushin, and they'll give it to like a modern Orthodox rabbi to sign. I'm thinking of Moshe Weinberger. That's what his. He doesn't like to sign marriage licenses. I don't know why. That's what he told me. But you should, once in a while. So then maybe some other Rav doesn't want to sign, and you can sign. So make sure you got what you legally do. You don't have to be modern Orthodox to sign a marriage license. You can be Hasidish, So. And, this Atmar Rebbe in Monroe, he signs marriage licenses. In Williamsburg, they have from the office of the CRC, one of the administrators or something signs. But, all right, well, God bless. Reb Zalman Leib, I don't think he signs. All right, God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, and all the rest. Okay, take care. But Reb Aaron signs. All right, take care.